Hi, everyone. We're the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Hinson.
I'm Dr. Donnelly.
And we are back with our continuing coverage of Netflix original content. We're making some recommendations in the in-between of our coverage of some pop culture TV hits. So if you've not joined us before, you'll find the links below to the other television shows that we've covered, Handmaid's Tale and The Crown being the two biggest ones. We spent a little time around Christmas doing some Hallmark Christmas movies, just for the fun of it, because we love Hallmark Christmas. We were watching them anyway, so we thought we might as well talk about them. And the next show up on our list is Dietland, which will be starting in a few weeks. But we had this in-between time, and we were like, you know what? Netflix is a popular place. The kids.
We've heard this rumor.
The kids seem to like it. So let's spend some time making some recommendations. So our last recommendation from last week was a favorite book of Dr. Donnelly's and a movie that we both adored, Dumplin'. We've covered Hassan Minhaj's stand-up comedy special, The Homecoming King. We've covered the super depressing and yet gripping and emotionally very relevant docu-series, The Keepers. In today's show, we are talking about Atypical, which, if you haven't watched it yet, 2 seasons are up on Netflix. And it is a show about a young man named Sam Gardner, who is an 18-year-old who struggles, as many people do, through his rather severe Asperger's. He is on the spectrum. He is autistic. And it is a story of Sam grappling with being in a world that is meant for, as the language that they use, neurotypicals. So he is neuroatypical is, I guess, the psychological term. So dealing with a world in which he is the ostracized, the outsider, but a person who, from just general appearance, looks to be neurotypical, which is a huge struggle for autistic people and people whose disabilities don't physically manifest. And the story of his family as well. His mother, played fantastically by Jennifer Jason Leigh, who making some kind of comeback on this show. And his sister, Casey, who I love. Casey's fantastic. And Michael Rappaport as his dad, who is just geniusly cast. So this was my pick, so I'm going to have a little bit more to say about it, but I'll turn it over to Dr. Donnelly for her thoughts, and then I will share my thoughts and feelings.
So it's really interesting, dear viewers. This is one of the first ones that we've kind of disagreed on. We weren't on the same page. So I didn't love this for a couple reasons. So Dr. Hinson nominated this and said, let's cover it. And she had been talking about it for a while. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. So a couple things. I really don't enjoy watching art that is designed to make me uncomfortable, or in which other people are uncomfortable. And I don't know why I didn't, the cringe factor is hard for me. Just in consuming art. And I don't know why I didn't connect before I started watching this, that's what this show would be. But I didn't. And so I was kind of shocked, how many times I was like, oh. So I don't have anybody, spoiler alert, Dr. Donnelly has a very close relative, Dr. Hinson has a very close relative who is neuroatypical and on the spectrum. And so she has more regular interactions with somebody who is neuroatypical than I do. I've certainly worked with folks in the past, and I have some academic knowledge, but I don't have anybody that I could go to personally and say, do you feel this represents you? Do you feel seen by this? And so I went to the internet and read some reviews from some neuroatypical folks who really don't feel that this represents them. And they feel that he's a bit of a caricature, but then Sam is a bit of a caricature, but then they end each review by, but this is a good step. I'm still really glad this exists. I'd like to go somewhere new now, please. So I found that to be interesting. And I know with fat representation, I sometimes feel the same way. There are things that are out there that I'm like, it could be better. I'm still glad this exists, but let's go forward.
But it's a step, yeah.
It's a step. They have all said, and I will say this to our viewers, that this is a great primer. If you have no one and no experience with a high functioning yet severe ASD, autism spectrum disorder individual, this is great. This is particularly great for showing how it affects family members. Mm-hmm. So this is like what somebody said it would be like. Would be like watching Rain Man grow up.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. I will also say I adore this actor. He's wonderful. He was great on United States of Terra, which is another show about neuroatypical folks, which is fascinating that these are the choices that he's making.
Yeah, Keir Gilchrist. I'd never heard of him.
Yeah. Oh, you'd like United States of Terra. We'll have to dig that up. But he played the son of somebody with dissociative identity disorder, and really dealt with that. So and you should know that there are some, like, he makes a lot of mistakes, not just because of his disorder, but because he's also, I think, kind of a jerk. And his autism presents very misogynistically, which is one of the cringe factors, and all of that. So I didn't hate it. I would recommend it, but I wouldn't call it like a comfortable watch for anyone who is averse to cringe a little bit like I am. And I didn't even realize how averse I was until I got into this series. So this is not like a slam. This is just a difference of a different view on it. But I know Dr. Hinson feels differently. So take it away.
I mean, I do and I don't. I don't disagree with what you've said. And it's funny that you mentioned the cringe factor, because I hadn't really thought about it before. But I think the point of the show is to make you uncomfortable in that way. And so then it's an interesting show to recommend, much like The Keepers. Like, this show is going to severely depress you. You should watch it. And I think, for me, what I love to, so as Dr. Donnelly said, I'll start with that. I have a close family member who is diagnosed ASD, who's around the same age as Sam as well. And so my family, as a very close extended family, identifies a lot with the struggles that happen in the Gardner family, sibling relationships, parent relationships. I identify a lot with the struggles that Elsa goes through, because I've seen my family struggle to get schools on board, to get ASD understood, to build an empathy with what it means for a person who is going through life neuroatypically in a world that's built for neurotypicals. So for me, that was some of the strongest moments of empathy and compassion in the show. When you get to see what it's like for Sam to be in a high school environment and be sat in the back of the room and completely overwhelmed and overstimulated by what's happening. And he lashes out violently, and he can be aggressive, and he can be short with people. As Dr. Donnelly said, he's kind of a jerk, or comes across as kind of a jerk. And maybe I see too much empathy with that, and where I see a lot of that manifesting as a part of the ASD. But it's also an interesting conversation to have, how much in a situation like this, how much is it a person's diagnosed disorder, and how much is it their own choices that they're making, which is a fascinating discussion to have as well. So for me, I watched this show with my mother, and we both loved it. My family cohort that has the young adult who is ASD has not watched it, obviously, because they don't need to watch their life on television. So I don't have feedback from them on whether or not they felt that was representative. And I understand the critiques that Sam might be a bit of a caricature. I think intentionally they wanted to show the extremes. Yeah. And as we all talk about, everything exists on a spectrum, including ASD. And so there's so many different manifestations of it. But to have a show where the main character, the lead character, is a person with ASD, I think is a step forward. Even, it's not perfect. None of these kinds of, caricatures are. So I really enjoyed it for that reason, maybe just because I identified with it.
And I will say too, I forgot to mention this, but they did praise it for, like, so a couple of the articles I read drew a real distinction between this and then that one on the Doctor Show with Freddie Highmore, where he's like a savant.
Oh, the good doctor, the one that that has a hashtag that is one letter off from ours. And every time I tweet, Twitter wants me to be like, "Are you talking about CBS's hit drama, The Good Doctor?" And I'm like, I am not.
I am not.
Yeah.
So evidently on that one, more people on the spectrum have an issue with that show because he's like the magical autistic. Like,
yeah.
So the people who were writing about Atypical were saying like, it's not that. Like, it's thank God it's not that. They really loved too that Sam was written as someone who loved art versus someone who was good with numbers.
Yeah.
Like, they said too, it very much, the first season was a rougher sit for them than the second season. They felt the second season really grew. So the only reason I bring it up, these critiques, is because, first of all, I think we should always trouble the narrative as beliefs, but also because we want you guys to understand and to remember that every representation on television is not fully accurate of anything.
Yeah, of anyone, yeah.
And that's the narrative that we've fallen into, I think, in the last 5-6 years, we've really started having understandings that different people are different. But television hasn't up until 5 or 6 years. So I wanted to beat that drum. But like I said, I would not steer people away from it at all. But yeah, it's an uncomfortable sit.
Yeah, and I mean, I think for me, what the show does and what attracts me to a lot of art, and this art in particular, is it presents you a different perspective. It implores you to find empathy with situations that you might not have any experience with or you might not understand, and to think about. So for me, that's what I love about it. And you see the characters struggle with that because it's never easy and it's never perfect. And his relationship with his sister, I think, is beautiful, because they're both in high school and they love each other, but he's really frustrating sometimes. And I think it's in the first season. It might have been, I don't remember which season because it's been a while since I watched them, but she lashes out at him about a tradition that they have around Christmas, I think, because she's trying to have like a party at their house. And it's a very, I think, human show. They are imperfect people.
That's a great word. Yep.
And so that happens because everybody's human. And even if you can be so conscious of another person's needs that might be different than your own, you're still going to have human emotional reactions to things. So for me, that was, and especially the what they do with prom, and they make all of the like Bluetooth headphones. They get all the Bluetooth headphones so that Sam can enjoy prom. I thought that was just the most hopeful thing that's probably happening in small doses around the country. And that, for me, that was a wonderful thing to see. But yes, it is a complicated show to enjoy or to struggle through. It's not light and fluffy and wonderful. Like maybe some of the other things. Well, no, none of the things we've recommended have been like light and fluffy. But that is a lot of times what Dr. Donnelly and I consume in our off time. But that's not why we're here for you guys. So those are our thoughts on Atypical, complicated though it may be. And we will be back next week for what we have yet to determine we are covering.
Yeah, it'll be a surprise. Netflix keeps churning out new content. So
we had a list of our must reviews. We've covered those, and we were kind of waiting to see what else Netflix might drop. So it's a surprise next week, guys. Stay tuned. If you have thoughts and comments, if you've seen something recently, the universal symbol for commenting, type below this video and let us know, because we haven't made that decision yet.
Yeah, we would say it can't be a series. So
no.
We would like a one-off movie or
like
something.
A movie or a special or a documentary or
documentary, another stand-up, something like that. Yeah.
Let us know.
We would love to hear from you.
That's right. But for now, that's all we've got for you. So we're the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Hinson.
I'm Dr. Donnelly.
And we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.
All the best. Bye.